and I help individuals and businesses to understand, manage and protect their intellectual property. And this is a panel which I'm very excited to moderate this morning. It's on my favourite subject, which is the power of art. And in my time in the music industry, I always used to say to people that music is how emotions sound, and art and design are how emotions look, feel, and take shape. And through music, art and design, we can express and convey the full range of human emotions and tell the stories of others who happen to be exactly like us. In other words, music, art and design are a form of creative expression that transcends cultures, languages and time. Very proper sounding, isn't it? Except yesterday, on the BBC website.
Looking at something beautiful, like a piece of art, may help free us from everyday anxieties, according to a new study reported in the Times. It says that researchers from Cambridge University have discovered that engaging with aesthetically pleasing objects appears to induce psychological distancing, which allows people to step back from their thoughts for a healthier perspective. Or, as the paper puts it, gazing at art helps you see the bigger picture. So please think of this as our morning therapy session. I've got a great panel, absolutely wonderful panel today, and I had the pleasure of speaking with them all last week, and I was blown away by how talented they all are in their own ways. So from my left to right, Antigone, in the green, for avoidance of doubt. Born and raised in North London, Antigone is a music artist, singer-songwriter of Greek Cypriot heritage, and makes a striking impression on the global music scene with her distinctive voice and captivating artistic style. And I gather you'll be performing at the awards on Saturday, so we will all have a chance to hear that. Antigone was named after her grandmother, signed her first publishing deal at 14, and has since been crafting a sound that blends her cultural roots with an urban energy of her surroundings. More recently, particularly interesting I think, is the viral duet with an Egyptian superstar called Ahmed Saad, further showcasing her global appeal. And I know that yesterday morning she was up very early filming her latest music video in Larnaca, the centre of the universe according to some. So, next to Antigone is Marios. Marios is an internationally acclaimed composer, currently based in Austria. He's known for his monumental cross-cultural works, and he has performed pieces and lived, I think, in Russia and Japan. He produced Sound of Vladivostok in Russia, Sound of Kyoto in Japan, and another one which I can barely pronounce called Matryoshka in Japan. And apparently that earned the Guinness World Record, so that's impressive. And I also know his multimedia symphony, Auto Symphonic in Germany, which involved 80 cars and 290 musicians, apparently hailed as the work of the century. Marios has also produced oratorios that touch on the Cyprus issue. Two of them that I know of are The Bells Will Ring and Weeping Madonnas, which honoured the 1974 tragedy of the missing persons. And he has received over 50 international awards, including Cyprus's 2024 Excellence Award. Pleasure to have you here, Maria. Next to Maria is Elpida. Elpida Tsipikos is co-founder, director, producer of One Whale's Tale in the US. Elpida is co-founder, director of this organisation, but also has directed films, music videos, documentaries, and developed projects for events such as the Art in Embassies Gala and Art Basel. Now, you're going to have to explain this to me. Elpida is a dialogical artist, apparently. It gets better when I get to Helene as well. Presenting her work in community gardens, public parks, and New York City waterways. But the thing that really impressed me when I spoke to Elpida last week was her creation of an organisation in New York called the Cyprus Foundation, and I'd be interested to hear more about that, as I'm sure Hannah will as well. I don't know if Michalis Andronicou is online as well. Are you there, Michalis? Michalis is in Calgary, Canada, and it's 1 o'clock in the morning there, but I'm not sure if he's been able to connect. He's meant to have an online link, and there doesn't seem to be an online link available, so it may be that he doesn't join us, which means that we will have longer together. Right, Halime, I got it right this time. Halime Özdemir Larusso is an award-winning international arts producer. Halime is the founder or producer of 360 Degrees, a London-based network that facilitates high-profile collaborations across the visual arts, film, performance and fashion. Halime was born in Famagusta and raised in London, and is renowned for orchestrating transformative cultural projects that bridge diverse artistic practices and create global connections. With collaborations including the Serpentine Galleries, the British Museum and the Royal Academy of Arts, Halime produces innovative and impactful experiences that push the boundaries of contemporary art. I know she's engaged in some very exciting projects at the moment, but in the past has produced the London Design Biennale 2025 and exploring the theme surface reflections. There's a great expression that Halime used when I spoke to her last week. Custodian of visions. I think that is such a brilliant... If I set up a company in the future, I'm going to call it Custodians of Visions Limited. It's what a brilliant expression. And last but certainly not least is someone I've known for a very long time. We're both quite old, you see. Andrew Michael. Andrew is an award-winning banker and the CEO and founder of 9 Lives Capital Limited. He has over 30 years of experience in the music and entertainment industry. He previously led the music and entertainment divisions at 2 FTSE 100 banks in London and has extensive experience in both lending against and acquiring music catalogues. Throughout his career, Andrew has been involved in numerous industry-defining transactions, including providing the finance to Kanye West for the launch of the Yeezy brand. Also the founder of Bitsonic, a Swiss-based tech company. The bit that really interests me though. Andrew has brokered many high-profile catalogue acquisitions, including those featuring songs by iconic artists such as Beyoncé, Rihanna, Bruno Mars, Ed Sheeran, Elvis Presley, Eminem, Kylie Minogue, Calvin Harris, The Killers, Duran Duran, Procol Harum, to name just a few. So if you're looking for music industry connections, he's your man. So, I don't know whether anyone is able to connect to Michalis in Canada. I hope that someone is able to reach out to him, because it'd be a shame if he's up all night and he's unable to connect to us. You think it's really kind of coming in? It's either that or the ghost. Excuse me. Can you let the organisers know that one of the guests was meant to join online and he hasn't been able to do so? No,
because we don't have.
Okay.
So
all right. Well, thank you. Find out for us then. So anyway, a common theme that emerged from my discussions with all of you last week, and it wasn't how I expected this panel to go, but as it was the common theme, I thought, no, let's follow this path. And it was this love. I mean, it's the only word I can use, love and passion for Cyprus. It's odd for an intellectual property lawyer to be spending his time having 6 conversations with people, and the word love appeared so many times. And I want to go around actually and try to work out how this love and passion translates itself into the way in which each of you have expressed yourself or work with people who want to express themselves. So starting with you, Antigone, when we spoke last week, what came through very strongly for me was this love and passion that you have for Cyprus. And actually, I'm thinking from some of the little things that you said, and also because of your name, that your grandmother was a particularly strong influence for you. Would you say that family influences have really shaped this passion, or was it something that was always there? What is it that drives you to do the kind of work that you do? I think you need to.
Hello?
Or shout.
Yeah, to answer your question, absolutely. I think my upbringing, my family,
I was immersed in Cypriot culture growing up. I was
Yeah.
immersed in Cypriot music. Ever since I was as young as I can remember, and I always knew I wanted to be a musician and a singer, my mum always said to me, all right, you can be a singer, but you've got to get up and sing wherever. You know, if someone asks you to sing, you're never going to be shy. And that is such a big part of Cypriot culture. You know, you go to a taverna and someone's singing. It's very natural for somebody sitting and having dinner to end up singing with the band, especially if you're a musician yourself. So through music and through that, I always was very immersed in that. I've recently, over the last 5-6 years, really found my sound, and it's incorporating my culture into my music. I've always made music, I've always sung, I've always written, but once I started including elements like the bouzouki, like the strings that we use in Cyprus and in the Middle East, suddenly I felt like I was really making the music that I was meant to make. And it makes me very proud to share my culture through my music. You know, going back to what you said about family, as a lot of you might know, my mum, Tonya, she was one of the first people she was the first person to go entirely on Cyprus, and for a lot of people around the world, she put Cyprus on the map. So she shared her love of Cyprus through food, through cooking, and my goal is to share my love and my culture of Cyprus and of the rich, unique sounds that we have through my music and through songwriting. So yeah, it's always been a part of me, and it's something I'm excited about.
And where do you see then the synergy with this Egyptian guy that you're working with? I mean, do you see a similar experience there?
Massively. You know, one thing that I fell in love with Arabic music because I realised how similar it was to Greek music. If somebody who was a non-Greek speaker walked into the bouzouki in Athens and heard certain songs that were playing, especially, you know, some Mazonagish songs, some of the old Van Dithings, you'd think this is Arabic. You'd have no idea that it was Greek, but because there's 1 billion speaking Arabs, I think there's only 20 million speaking Greeks. People just aren't as familiar with it. Yeah, and when I started incorporating, you know, these sounds into my music, I was like, there's no reason why the whole world can't love and enjoy this sound. You know, the same way that Latin music is the biggest genre in the world, and the same, if you said to people 5-6 years ago that Afrobeats would become the biggest genre in the world, no one would have believed you. So I really felt like this Cypriot, Greek, Middle Eastern sound doesn't need to be something that's limited to Greeks and Cypriots. It's something that the whole world can enjoy if it's done in the right way. And now it's beginning to happen. You're seeing artists like Iliana headlining a stage at Coachella, singing fully in Arabic. Why can't that be Greek? So it's a nice thing. I feel like, when I did the song with Ahmed Saad, it felt like such a natural pairing. You know, Greek and Arabic artists have been making collaborations for decades, so it felt like a really, really nice, natural, authentic collaboration.
It's very, very interesting. Maria, I suspect that you may have a slightly different take on the influence of the music, but I mean, your compositions, I know, relate directly to some of your experiences and your passion for what's happened to Cyprus in 1974 and since, really. And there's a sense of pain that comes across, which I can understand. I mean, how do you harness that emotion and then turn that into, you know, these magnificent masterpieces that you have created? And also, I'd be interested to hear what you think about what Ivani said about the Arabic influence as well with Greek music.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to say that the medium of music is the sound, but its essence, it's the soul behind it.
Very
And by saying soul, it means the background that is the basis for creative any artistic work, not just music, but of course all the expressive approaches to art. And in our case, we are of course found in a crossroad between 3 continents, and this is something of course that defines our own identity. And as far as we know, we are independent only since 1960. So we have a long history. However, our independence is very new to us, and it seems it's difficult to handle by ourselves alone. Therefore, art through this year has been a kind of in a form of a hybridism, and this hybridism is something that's happening today, of course, with new means like the technology and the different genres in the music. So it's interesting what is the definition of art through the years. Apparently nowadays it has a different understanding in the community and within the arts community itself as it used to be many years or many centuries ago. You have mentioned the element of pain. Our history, it's obvious that it's full decorated with pain, and I think this is what it means the humans that lives here. And every artwork has a source, and this source is the human soul, as I mentioned at the beginning. Therefore, as much as we love this island, we feel this pain. I was hearing in the morning in the radio, because today is a commemorate day of the Second World War, and many Cypriots, almost 25,000.
Including my father, fought for the British
Your
Army.
father as well, yes.
Yeah.
And it was one case from Limassol, it was one documentary from 1990, and this man was saying, I fought for the freedom and liberty in this world. I look myself, I'm a refugee living in Limassol, but I come from North Cyprus, my origin. So, and I think art reflects our identity. And
Yeah.
this is the image that I am trying to
Yeah, I can see that. And
produce as well.
yeah, it gives truth to that expression. Music is how emotions sound. Your music, which I've listened to and have known for many years, it really reflects, I think, your emotions. It goes back to the soul that you were talking about earlier.
I would say that emotion, this is a thing that we cannot really define as a true artifact of music. What's in art itself, it's the content. And the content, depending on its character, then it might raise emotions. And if we recollect Umberto Eco, which is a very important person in the so-called semiotics, when he speaks about the artwork, and he brings the example of going to a museum and looking at an artwork. So he says, the more you get the interaction with this artwork, the communication between the human and the artwork develops. The fact is that the artwork never changes. What changes is our perception towards the artwork.
Thank you very much. That was absolutely fascinating. So, Elvira, so the way that you expressed your passion and love for Cyprus, and again from our conversation, I know that your father was a big influence in helping to generate this. But you've done it in a slightly different way from Antigone and from Marios. And as I said in the introduction, I was particularly impressed and wanted to learn more, and I'm sure everyone would like to learn more about the Cyprus Foundation. Can you tell us a little bit about the reasons why you thought it necessary to establish a foundation, and in what way you think that has helped put Cyprus on the map, particularly in the US? One of the taglines for this panel, which I didn't write the taglines, was how does art contribute to Cyprus's social, political and economic development? And actually, I think what you've done with the foundation probably does more to do that than anyone else. So perhaps you could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I believe that in order for people to understand what Cyprus is, we have to exist in all sectors of society. I'm personally an artist and I make performance predominantly. And my entire life, people have asked me when I say, well, first they ask me where I'm from, I say Cyprus, and then they say, what's that? It's just never ending. And so, you know, there are a lot of different things that we can do to remedy that. For me, it's usually like a 45-minute lecture that comes after that. I start usually around 1100, and then I take it to modern time. And that's not a joke, I do that. But, you know, I grew up in Cypriot politics. My father was the president of every Cypriot American organization that existed, and that's the way that he moved through the world to build awareness of Cyprus and the conflict and the liberation of Cyprus. And for me, I do it through art. You know, a lot of times I go to museums and I say, there's no art from Cypriots here. You go to concerts, you don't see Cypriot musicians, you don't see Cypriot theater makers. I mean, there are very few of us in general, and that's partially it. But I believe that I like to teach people secretly, and so I think through the arts you can end up doing that. People don't necessarily want to sit down at a lecture and learn the history of Cyprus, but potentially Antigone says she's Cypriot before singing a pop song, and someone goes, what the hell is that? And they Google it, and they start to learn about Cyprus. And just that act, I believe, does actually teach people and inform people, and then start to build awareness of Cyprus, where it is, what it is, our history, which is so complex and so full of trauma and so long. So the Cyprus Foundation, I started that to kind of just have a place for that, and also not just in the United States, but I kind of think of it as like a privatized ministry of culture that transcends the diaspora, where Cypriots in America and Australia and South Africa and England and wherever in the world they are can be in dialogue with each other. And to respond to what dialogical art is the art is the dialogues that are created. So it's not that you've come to watch me talk, but if we have a collaboration, it's not just the work that we create, but the fact that we've been in dialogue across, I don't know, half the world. It's a dialogical art project in and of itself to be creating these dialogues. So the Cyprus Foundation is that. And it's not just for Cypriots either, it's also, which we all do deserve that, but you know, you read a novel set in the south of France, and it has nothing to do with the south of France, but it's set in the south of France. And so you say, I gotta go to this town in the south of France, I read this novel that took place there, and I want someone to write a novel from the village I'm from that has nothing to do with Cyprus, but someone's reading it and they go, oh wow, this takes place in Cyprus. Like, it doesn't have to be the plot. So I also want to establish residencies and things like that for non-Cypriots in Cyprus so that we start to see ourselves in art, so that you can go to a museum and see a painting, and it doesn't even have to be a Cypriot artist that painted it, but it's a painting of Cyprus. And I think that it requires an investment in these sectors in order for it to exist. No one knows who we are. And like Mario was saying, I mean, we only became our own country in 1960. Our independence, which, you know, is barely independent, is short term. And so I believe in all of these sectors of society, we're just kind of getting started. And it's amazing to see what so many Cypriots have done in such a short amount of time, but we have to keep going.
And do you think that, is there any visible progress from what you've been doing in the States in putting Cyprus on the map?
I mean, it's so difficult to measure progress, but I would say yes. Yeah. I mean, it's really silly, but like 15 years ago, I was fundraising for a project that had nothing to do with Cyprus, and I made the gift be this tote bag that said, I Heart Cyprus. And it had nothing to do with Cyprus, the project, it was a web series. Hundreds of people have that tote bag. They're walking around New York City, they're walking around with a tote bag that says, I Heart Cyprus. I see it still in Instagram posts, friends will text me, I'm carrying this tote, and I'm like, great, they're walking around New York City. Someone's like, what is that?
I hope you trademarked that.
I can't trademark. I Heart Cyprus. Well, listen, there's amazing Cyprus merch at the Beniteros here, and I have to be honest, that's where this started. And one of my friends owns a souvenir shop, and I just kept coming and being like, I need like 200 more of those bags, and I was bringing them back to New York. But it's silly.
It's a drip effect. It gets Cyprus on the map.
And to go back to dialogues, the dialogue of what is Cyprus? Someone's walking down the street in New York and they see this bag. What is Cyprus? Okay, I've created a dialogue, and you go home, maybe you Google it, maybe you talk about it, maybe you just think, what is Cyprus? But I do think these things have an impact, but I certainly couldn't tell you the measurements of it. Yeah.
Well, I'm now going to move on to the custodian of visions, Halime. So, Halime, I mean, again, as I explained in the introduction, you were born in Famagusta, and your family moved to London, was it in 1983 that you said?
In 84.
84.
In 84. I was born in 1983, 5 weeks after the 15th of November,
Yeah.
which is quite a poignant time in our collective history, unfortunately. And that actually was the moment that my mother, the brave woman that she is, made a very, very difficult decision to leave the island with my 5-year-old brother and her daughter, 10-year-old, and leave my father so that we can actually have a chance at life, really. So, should I elaborate on that a little bit?
Please do. Yeah,
Yeah.
please do. I mean, it's important because what I was going to go on to ask you was how your background had shaped your love and passion for Cyprus, those two words again, and how that in turn transcended itself into your work.
Yeah, so I come from an incredibly creative family. My mother is a seamstress, tailor, my fashion icon, as it were. And she left the island in 1966, and she was married to a man in a photograph. It was commonplace then, and she came to London. She left Cyprus as a Cypriot, and unfortunately that marriage didn't work out very well. Back then, the term postpartum depression, it wasn't diagnosed, it wasn't known. And so everyone thought my mother was crazy at 18 years old after having given birth to her daughter, who, as she went in and out of hospital, tried to return home, was unable to return home because of what was happening on the island, unfortunately. So she was able to eventually return in 1975 and to a very, very different landscape in Augustus. And she, again, never had a choice. She was married off to someone there so that she wouldn't have any problems in that environment that was being created at the time. My brother happened. I was supposed to have another brother, but that didn't go through. And then when my mother fell pregnant with me, she was adamant that she was not going to lose me, and she fought for me. Fast forward to November on the 15th, when the announcement was made, 1 month before I was due to be born, my mother ran to the British consulate. Just to give you an example, when she returned to London, she returned to Cyprus, she returned as a British citizen, and she burnt her passport, but she wrote the number down. And so that day, she ran to whatever outpost there was it the British consulate, was it whatever, I'm not sure, and she reapplied for a British passport. And whoever was at the desk turned around and said, there's no way you're stuck here, you're gonna have to stay. 10 days later, said, no, your passport is ready. She's heavily pregnant with me, and I took my sweet old time. I was due on the 4th of December, I arrived on the 24th of December. I took my time. I needed to be the backing, get the crowds ready for the big JC. I needed to make a point of being here. And that's when the process started, really. Again, it was her creativity, it was her grit, it was her, the arguments she had. She put me straight onto her passport, put my sister onto her passport. My late father, unfortunately, was a very arrogant man, and he refused to allow my brother to be on her passport, and so refused to get him a passport. Fast forward to 8 months, my mother, 5 days, 5 nights, me as an 8-year-old baby, declared herself as a returning Brit at Dover. No plan, no nothing. And I prayed to God, and I'm very, very thankful to the Armenian man who was at border control, because when my mother arrived and declared herself with me as an 8-month-old baby, my sister, 10 years old, and my brother, who wasn't on a British passport, he turned around and said to her, okay, that's your daughter, you're British, fine, but you're smuggling that child in. Because how was she supposed to explain to him that, no, this is my son, but my husband being who he was and what we're fleeing and just understanding the culture. Thatcher's Britain in the 1980s was a very complex place.
Remember it well.
And Mr. Mikhalian, if he wasn't an Armenian man, there's absolutely no way that we would have been able to pass.
And that experience then fueled that passion, hunger, drive, which you have then taken into your work.
Absolutely. It's that fire, it's that grit, it's that determination, it's
Never
that
say
everything is figure outable. You know? When you're having to figure things out by yourself with no one to consult with, and all you've got is your intuition and your creativity, that's all you've got. No one to ask for help. Just how can it happen? How can it work? That's I get all of my creativity from my mother, 100%. And that led me down the road of, you know, as a child I was making art, I was making music, I was dancing around, I was playing, you know. I took my first steps in a bed and breakfast in Croydon when we first arrived to an apple. I'm an excellent cook, by the way, but looking at you, I do all right. I do all right on you. And yeah, it all started there. And because of the sacrifices my mother made, I was able to get myself an education within the visual arts. And so I did the whole, I've got a degree, I went to one of the best universities in the world, actually, the University of the Arts London, Camberwell. I'm a graduate of fine art drawing, elective in philosophy. I did all of that. But then I found that my creativity was in the moving and shaking. I like to understand how things happen, why things happen. How can we, you know, how can I bring together these creatives? How can I make these exhibitions? How does it all pull together? And that's where I coined the term nearly 20 years ago. You know, I am the custodian of vision. You know, I work very closely with curators, artists, you know, to make, you know, filmmakers, performance artists, you know, to make manifest. You know, if you have this idea and you don't know how to translate that into reality, I will figure it out for you, and we will do this. And there is no middle ground with me. I'll either do what I want.
It's interesting because you've got your mum as a major influence, you've got your dad as a major influence, you've got your yaya as a major influence, and probably your mum as well. But Maria, who's your major influence? Yeah, I'm trying to think what member of a family we haven't covered yet. Is it a cousin? Is it a...
Well, it's not about relatives. I would say maybe because you said something important, and I would like to bring here shortly the word cultural diplomacy.
Okay.
And actually, there are many facts in arts history that point out to Cyprus, but unfortunately, people are not aware of them. And I will say one example that I'm sure everybody knows it, and this is Othello by Verdi. Yeah? The castle. Yes, exactly. It's here. It's here, yes, it's here, very close to here. And also when the Francophonians were here, there is a big legacy that is being connected and is performed all over the world, but nobody is aware that it comes from Cyprus. And here comes, I think, a very important element in play. This is the institutions of the government. They are responsible, you know, especially the Ministry of Exterior Affairs, to promote all this. And we must say that I'm sure here we sit in this, and maybe also in the audience, many people who try their own efforts to do things that actually the government should support.
Absolutely.
This is not a criticism against any government, but this is a serious issue.
It's a reality.
It's a reality, exactly. And everyone deserves, you know, to know that the European culture especially has been inspired from Cyprus. Now it's well known, but it's not obvious.
No, it's not obvious.
That Cyprus landscapes and people and historical figures and so on are, you know,
I mean, for a leader to have to talk about a private sort of cultural department.
So these are my inspirations. You know, what define our own culture.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting.
The Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City was founded with stolen antiquity from Cyprus. The entire
Really?
institution.
I didn't know that.
That building only
I didn't know
exists.
that.
Yeah, Cesnola stole 3 boats of antiquity. One of them sank, and not only that, he pieced together a statue head onto a different body. He added gemstones to them. So it's what you're saying. We do exist, but there's a major effort. I mean, that completely. That's another form of erasure, because they can't even. They look at a statue and they go, "This is from 5 different periods." But the Metropolitan Museum of Art does not have a plaque on the front that says that this space exists because of antiquity from Cyprus. It was the first lump of antiquity that they got to found that museum. So it's,
That's very interesting.
Yeah, but I wrote a play about that. Just about that.
And this is precisely why, for the last 2 years in particular, I've directed my focus back on Cyprus. I mean, Cyprus is the pinnacle, has always been the eye, this gem in the heart of, sandwiched between Europe, like sandwiched in the Mediterranean, between the Middle East. It's the border place. It's just, we're in the heart of everything, and we've been the center of everything for centuries. And so this whole consistent fight to be able to bring and elevate our voices, it's no longer a fight. We are all here, and we are representing the beauty of Cyprus and how creative this island is. I mean, for the last 2 years, I've focused primarily on being able to connect those dots. So, through Magnus Temples, which is launching this year, is to connect filmmakers, artists, museums, galleries, to be able to access Cyprus, what is here already, not necessarily to build something new, but to build up from the foundations that exist here, because her voice deserves to be amplified. She deserves to write her own destiny and not be consumed by her past. We are incredible creatives here, and we're here to amplify that.
Okay, well, I'm now going to turn to someone who is, I don't think you would describe yourself, Andrew, as a creative, but knowing you well, I mean, I know you've got a real passion for music, and that you love to work with people who invest in music-related projects, help musicians and creatives to express themselves with greater artistic and financial freedom. It's interesting listening to the panelists. It's obvious that funding for the arts, whether it's music or design or performance, is a real concern. Can you just tell us a little bit about what kind of projects you believe that those backing you and yourself are looking for when investing in music and the arts? And do you have any thoughts on how we can involve Cyprus and Cypriots more, and possibly put Cyprus more on the map through not so much the creative side, but investing and supporting the creative side?
Yeah, I think so. I think that one of the keys is making sure that everyone is aware of this. I think a lot of it's awareness. I was speaking to some people yesterday evening here at the cocktail party, and mentioning some of the things that I did in terms of lending against music copyright, and also brokering deals for acquisitions of copyrights. And a lot of the people didn't even understand or didn't even know that existed. People didn't know people didn't know that musicians can sell their rights. They didn't know they could borrow against them. So I think awareness is certainly the first step towards assisting people in understanding that. And not only that, then there's also the investment side of things. So from the creative side that we've just touched on, in terms of selling or leveraging their assets, but actually from an investment perspective, the asset side of the music industry is something that's extremely valuable, and investors should be looking at that kind of asset class. There's so many people that invest in property, invest in the stock market, but actually the music industry and the assets, the music copyrights, are as valuable, if not more valuable, than a lot of the
It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Exactly. And the other beauty is that the risk is a lot lower, in my opinion. So, for example, in a recession, if you own stocks and shares, you own property, then you tend to find that those asset values go down. In a recession, music is not touched. If anything, it actually raises. You know, when we were all indoors from COVID, people couldn't go out. And so they were sitting indoors listening to music, they were watching Netflix, they were doing all these kind of things which involve music. And we saw, outside of the live world of music, we actually saw royalties rise during those times because of the fact that more and more people were consuming music. And so I think the key is both awareness, as I said, from both sides, from the creative side that they can do something with their assets. And we see this regularly where people, creators want to be a bit more independent. They don't want to go along the record label kind of route where the record label end up owning more of their assets than they do, and the deals aren't necessarily great. And so a lot more individuals, including the big A-list artists that have already done the record label scenario, they're looking for alternative ways to be able to continue their careers, and it might be sell some of their old stuff to make capital, to invest into their new careers, but own it 100% rather than co-owning it with corporates.
Yeah, and what people don't realise, and I suppose that's the fault of people like me actually, the lawyers, but copyright lasts for a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
Initially, it was created to last for 3 generations, and then because people started living longer, they made it a longer period of time. But for all of your artworks, or your music, that copyright, that exclusive right that you have lasts for your entire life, plus another 70 years. I mean, that's a very, especially in your case, that's a very, very long time.
Absolutely.
It's going to be what, 160 years or so, 150, 160 years.
Exactly.
And it's an asset that will keep growing, as you say, in value. So it's got to be worth investing in art or design or music.
Yeah.
Or literature for that.
Well, I was speaking to someone last night and I mentioned exactly that, and I said, I used a great example, I think, as the Beatles. So the Beatles were around in the 60s making their music and writing their songs.
See, you're speaking to my generation now. You and I are on the same page.
I wasn't quite there. just to be but if you think about the Beatles making big #1 songs in the 60s, and we use that 70-year copyright length that you mentioned, that the 70 years is based upon, it doesn't start ticking, that clock doesn't start ticking until the death of the last co-writer. And so if you think about someone like the Beatles, we've still got 2 of them that are alive, Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney, and therefore you've already had a 65-year term of them earning royalties, but that 70-year clock hasn't even started ticking yet.
For Lennon McCartney, no. That's right. I mean, there's some very interesting legal issues there, but we won't go into just at the moment. But yeah, I mean, it is. People are always astonished when I say you do realise you'll be earning money from this for another 100 years. Yeah. Is there any update on whether Michalis can join us? Because we've not been able to secure a connection with him, which is fine for everyone else here, but I did want to give him the opportunity to participate. But it doesn't sound like he's been able to connect, so we'll just carry on without him. No, there's been no connection, Paul. Okay, thanks. So, where do we go from here? Because the great thing about creatives is that they don't stop creating even if there is no money involved. So, Andrew's a money man, and Andrew will always help us to fund our inspirations, our creative projects, help provide some skeleton for our love and for our passion. But even if none of you are earning any money, I think you would all still be doing everything you're doing because your emotions dictate who you are, and your emotions force you to do it. So even if you're not going to earn a single penny from anything, you will still be doing it. What are you doing in the future? Now, for me, I mean, I'm speaking personally here, I'm not representing anyone. I can't see why you shouldn't be Cyprus's next entry in the European Song Contest.
Absolutely.
It's so bloody obvious. It's so obvious to me. Why isn't it obvious to to anyone else? And is that something you've ever thought about?
I think you're absolutely right, Nick. No.
Can you make the check out, please, to
I'll take the check on that.
No, thank you for saying that. I appreciate it. Doing the Eurovision for me is something that ever since I was a kid, I watched Elena Barbarizzo win for Greece, of course, but you know, we are tied. I was like, I'm doing that one day. And the thing is, I have a lot to say around the Eurovision. And one of the main things that I feel is really, really important, as we've all just seen through these amazing people on the panel, how much Cyprus has to offer. When was the last time a song went for Cyprus that had anything remotely Cypriot about it? You know, and that is absolutely no discredit to the very talented artists that have gone over the last few years. I've met a lot of them, they're all brilliant. But the songs that they sung could have been representing any country. They were just, you know, really great songs and great voices. We as Cypriots have this monadic opportunity to share our language, because I lived in Greece last year, right, and I can't say a sentence without straight away they're like, I say Cypriot, or Cypriot they say. Because, but when I'm here, you know, it's like I said Chalua, you know what I mean? But our language is so distinctive. So we have our whole own dialect, not even just, everyone knows the Greeks, you know, and we are connected to the Greeks, we share a lot with the Greeks, but we have our whole own language. So, you know, it's something that I've begun to do in some unreleased music, is not only incorporating Greek words, but actually Cypriot words. So I've written a song for the Eurovision that I'm going to pitch for next year. Hopefully we can get that across the line. And the whole of the second verse is, I FaceTime my cousin in Lithoronda and I said, hello Lambo, I want you to tell me some really Cypriot phrases. Some things that the Greeks absolutely won't understand, but things I've never heard of. And he was telling me sentences like, and exactly, it means we're gonna mess it all up, you know.
Oh, okay.
And that's something that I'm really passionate about. So I'd love to represent Cyprus. And the thing is, it's about authenticity too. I wouldn't be writing a song that has a Cypriot flavour just so I can do the Eurovision. I'm doing that in all my songs. It's very hard for you to find.
It's who you are.
Yeah, it would be hard to go across my Spotify and find a song that doesn't have at least a little bit of bouzouki in it. You know, I'm in sessions with Nigerian producers or Jamaican producers, and then I'm bringing Mario to the studio who plays the bouzouki, who's like, you know, a real classic Cypriot. He's normally got a cigar in his mouth while he's playing.
Not this Mario.
Not this Mario, another Mario. So, you know, neither do I just sound like I do. But yeah, so, you know, it's through all my music that I'm putting Cypriot sound into it. So doing the Eurovision would just be such a natural progression. And the thing is, there is this, who knows, magic mystery of how it works in Cyprus. Yeah. And how the Eurovision actually gets selected. No. I've tried to have those conversations. I
can talk to you about that.
Yeah. You know, no shade, but hella shade. Because it's not about, you know, having the door slammed in your face. You can't even get a meeting to be able to do that. And as far as I know, there's no one else really at the moment who's outside of Cyprus who is incorporating Cypriot sound into their music.
That's the key element, isn't it? It's not just representing Cyprus on the stage in one specific event in front of hundreds of millions of people. It's showcasing something that you're doing already.
Yeah.
And that is the difference.
And the thing is, there's very few platforms that are like the Eurovision, where the whole audience that watches the Eurovision are hungry for culture. They love culture. You know, the favourite to win this year is the Swedish song about saunas, which, yeah, it's kitsch and it's funny, but it's their culture. And that's what's authentic. You know, people love to hear that, and we have such a rich culture that it's important to share it. You said something earlier that resonated with me. It slipped my mind now because I just had a really good point, but it was about the dialogue and how you can place Cyprus in someone's mind almost subconsciously. So for me, shooting a music video in Cyprus, for example, in a beautiful location where somebody goes, wow, that's incredible, where is that? And then you say, oh, it's in Cyprus, and that's exactly, and you get to share it in a really, it's like, what's the word? Mind control. Subconsciously putting Cyprus into people's peripherals. So yeah, I think, you know, and like you said before about getting funding, we just find ways to do it. It was me and my videographer in the sea.
With Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew, let's have a chat. You know, but at the moment you can do it when you have the love and the passion for the creative part of it. You just find the way to do it, which was basically me and my videographer in the sea at 4 a.m. outside my yayas house. But it's going to look impressive, but it didn't cost a thing. So that's the way we, you know. But yeah, sorry, I've gone around in a circle.
Not at all, but you are constantly performing. I'm coming to see you on the 27th of May in London. And you're constantly recording at the moment, so you and doing videos and your site. You've got your own record company, is that right?
Yeah, so named after one of my favourite spots in Cyprus, which is Sirena Beach in Budada.
Sure.
I named a record label Sirena Records, which it kind of goes back to what you said about. I was signed to Island Records. I've been in the middle of the industry. There's good and bad. There's great things that come from it. But you know, when you do have your independence, you have that freedom to be able to do it. So that's why I set up Sirena Records, and I use that Sirena thing. I have a show on Greek Beat Radio now, which is called Sirena Sounds, and yeah, just trying to. I'm releasing more music, playing more live, hopefully during the Eurovision in 2026.
Well, we're really looking forward to seeing you on Saturday night.
Thank you.
Mario, what's coming in the future for you?
Well, now I am still working in the south of Shanghai. This is
Shanghai
in China. This is the third biggest city in the world. And maybe this is another impact that a Cypriot identity can give to the world without maybe knowing that it comes from Cyprus. So it was mentioned before, like Verdi was inspired from Cyprus. We also have the power to be inspired by other nations. And I find it even more powerful because in this instance, nationalities don't play a role anymore. And I believe in this ecumenic idea that this is also very essential in our own history. And when we speak about the Hellenic culture and the Hellenic roots, this is actually more based in the Byzantium, and not in Athens. Athens was actually a small village, 9,000
I agree with you.
inhabitants, and we are actually Greki, yes, not so Greeks. And Cypriots, more specifically, if we take into consideration our language, the Cypriot dialect, it is more associated with the Homerian Greek and the Akkadian Greek, which is more authentic to the original. And
they don't speak proper Greek in Athens, you know.
Well, they do speak, we just having the reference to our roots.
Right.
And well, and I find this interesting to interact with other cultures, with other civilizations, with other nations, without being having a table. I am from Cyprus, or I am from somewhere else.
But when you're doing work with Shanghai, with China, in what way then do they know about Cyprus? Is it just because it's a Cypriot?
They don't care where I come from.
Right.
They care what I do.
Yeah, sure.
And it's interesting that, and again, I would like to go back to the work of the Office of Foreign Affairs. They have no idea, they have never heard of Cyprus.
Really?
They don't know that this country exists. And this is, I think, in a way, a sad thing to reflect.
Yeah.
So this is one thing I do, and at the same time, I was invited by a Danish city. This is Nestbed.
Yeah.
This is on the south, very close to Germany, and this is a place that it wants to transform itself. There is a small harbor. It's going to be outside, so they want to develop the city from the aspect of culture. And you know, the moment a new theater, a new opera house, a new museum is being built, then all the city is being developed around it.
Okay, I'm conscious of the time actually, Mario. I've just realised that we're overrunning.
Yes.
So I want to give the others an opportunity just to sort of tell us what you're doing. But I'm sorry that I'm rushing you, but we could talk for days.
I'd love to just speak quickly and then pass it on.
Okay.
I'm working on a new theater festival that is happening in Brooklyn on the waterfront called Sugar Sugar. I'm curating and creative producing it this June, so like tomorrow. And then, yeah,
you look very relaxed, given that it's so soon.
Yeah, I'm not relaxed. I'm so stressed. But that's why I just say it nice and quick, and then it's consuming my life, but it's going to be amazing. It's an outdoor amphitheater. It's site-specific work.
Wow.
It's all free. We're going to be able to put, I don't know, like maybe 10,000 people throughout the month, maybe more. I'm very excited about that. And one of my shows is the closing performance. So I always sound this calm, but
It's the group therapy session that we're in.
yeah. And I'm just gonna keep disrupting power structures and
Good for you.
making work. So just,
Good for you.
I got a mic.
I know.
Is it?
What's coming up with you?
Well, it isn't coming up with me at the moment. So, right. So, live projects-wise, I'm producing London Design Biennale, which is about to launch in 3 weeks from now. So I'm going straight back to London for that. So I've got 25 pavilions that I'm working on.
That's amazing.
Europe. I'm also part of the expert panel and working as a producer for Larnaca 2030 European Capital of Culture Candidate City. So I'm also representing Larnaca on the European stage. I've just got back from
Sonia will be
We, yeah, Larnaca it's my home. It has a very, very special place in my heart, which is also why I've anchored Magnus Tempus, which is my new collaborative itinerant platform, which is dedicated to fostering collaboration across the visual arts, fashion and performance, creating itinerant residencies, and the main base for that is Larnaca and Limassol and Nicosia. I've also just this Friday finished my submission for the Venice Biennale.
Fantastic.
Top secret.
Well, you're telling everyone.
Hi everyone.
We won't tell anyone. That's fantastic.
Yeah, and
That's a really major achievement. Well done.
Thank you. So that went in. So we'll find out probably in the next couple of weeks the outcome of that once Koyoko, the new curator of the Venice Biennale, is going to announce the subject matter, who I've worked with in the past as well. And I have 3 films that I'm producing between May and June, which is why I'm flying back to London next week as well. So I have a film production every weekend now until the end of June. And I'm also, launching 2 open calls as part of Magnus Tempus, one in collaboration with a non-profit organisation called D6EU, who are based in Larnaca and Nicosia, and it's in collaboration with the Design Museum and the Future Observatory in London. And also I will be hosting a casting call for a brand new feature film that we filmed in Larnaca in November. I can't tell you about it because it's on the embargo, but keep that.
I'll talk to you separately. Right, Andrew, you've got your final word. So I know you can't tell us about specific individuals, but can you give us an idea of the scale of the operations you're involved with at the moment?
Well, I think to start, the first thing I'm going to be doing is working with next year's Eurovision Song Contest winner. And after that, I think, yes, scale is probably a good word, Nick. At the moment we have 7 deals in legals, all for kind of household names that people will recognise, for sales and acquisitions of their music catalogues for various different reasons. We've also just gone through quite a big expansion. We've hired numerous additional staff and have licensed out our music tech platform now, and we've got a lot of the major record labels and music publishers using that. So it's quite busy, lots going on.
If you're free on 27th of May, we'll go together to see Antigone.
Absolutely.
You can come as well. You can all come. Anyone who wants to, you're all welcome. I'm not her manager, but I'll be a PR man.
Love that, you're hired.
Thank you. On that note, I think we probably are out of time. I'm really sad to say we're out of time because we could have this panel discussion for hours, but can you please all show your appreciation to the superb